Howdy, my name is Nonat, and did you know in the Pathfinder 2e Remaster there were some pretty small changes that flew under the radar, especially with archetypes. There was some word updates and clarifications here and there to make them easier to understand as well as work with the new text in the remaster, but some of them actually got some microscopic changes that you have to look pretty hard to notice. For example, with the Bounty Hunter dedication, if you already have Hunt Prey because you're a ranger, rather than getting a random proficiency bump to survival and a circumstance bonus to gathering information, you now get an entire extra feat for free in Monster Hunter from taking the dedication. So overall, a huge upgrade for the Bounty Hunter. But you might already be asking yourself, Nona, the title of this video is talking about Pathfinder 2e Remastered Fighters. Why are we talking about archetypes? And to that I say, it's partially to create an engrossing intro and build a rapport with the viewer so they can find me charming and devilishly handsome before we get into the meat of the video. It's also called padding for watch time. Speaking of padding for watch time, I want to take this moment to thank all of the members of the Nonat1's Patreon page for supporting me and my channel. Without you, there is no content. You are what helps me do this and make enough to make a living wage. Sincerely, thank you. If you would like to also support the channel, there is a link in the description where, if you would like, there are some open slots for the massive $250 tier for me to run a one-shot for you and up to 4 friends. Once again, to clarify, that is $250 for the entire game, not per person. I still get questions asking about that. So if you and up to 4 friends want to play in a one-shot run by me, scheduled and tailored to your group, consider reaching out and pledging to that tier. Would love to have you on there. We ran our first one last month and it was a blast. I had an amazing time playing with everybody in that game. And also, if you're watching this video immediately when it comes out, I'm actually live over on twitch.tv/nonat1s right now streaming Monster Hunter Frontier. With Monster Hunter Wilds coming out in February, my goal is to reach at least the pseudo endgame of this gigantic game by the time Wilds releases. If you want to come along for the ride, we've made some amazing progress and it has been incredible. Would love to see you over there. Now let's get into the topic of the video. So, the PF2 fighter, you love it or you hate it, it's a great class. The most accurate strikes in the game, the highest critical hit chance of any character in the game. It's hard to go wrong with a fighter because of their raw, consistent damage, especially because they're the only characters in the game to reach legendary proficiency with any weapon. They actually get legendary with every weapon in the game by level 19, but that's so late in the game it's not worth talking about. No, we're talking about 2 class features from the fighter specifically at levels 7 and 13 specifically. Obviously, I'm talking about fighter weapon mastery and weapon legend. Obviously, the fighter starts with expert proficiency in all simple and martial weapons and trained in advanced weapons, already a full proficiency step ahead of most other classes. But once they hit level 5, they get to choose only one type of weapon to upgrade to master. This is a way of balancing it so that while all classes get expert proficiency in all weapons at level 5, then the fighter only gets to bump one type of weapon up to master, with the rest of them being on par with the other martial classes. I think this is great design. The fighter is designed in PF2 to be a master, a legend with one type of weapon. Whether it's swords or axes or bows, you make that decision, and it gives the fighter a lot of character and agency, because if they lose access to their preferred weapon, they're far from useless, but they don't get to maximize their potential. And this repeats itself at level 13 with Weapon Legend, with all of their weapons reaching master proficiency, but one specific weapon group getting to reach legendary right at level 13, which is so early, it's wild. Now this is going to sound like a totally random segue, but months ago, I released this video creating Zagreus from Hades in Pathfinder 2e. Stay with me. If you haven't watched that video already, I highly recommend watching it first because I'm about to spoil basically the entire build that I did to make him Zagreus. And that is because of one specific word in multiple different archetypes. On page 157 of the Advanced Player's Guide, let's look at the Archer dedication line by line. You become trained in all simple and martial weapons in the bow weapon group. Who cares? Whenever you gain a class feature that grants you expert or greater proficiency in certain weapons, you also gain that proficiency rank in all simple and martial weapons in the bow group. What does that mean? Well, let's look back at our class feature. Let's say our fighter took that archer dedication at level 4, and then they hit level 5 and gain fighter weapon mastery. Well, they choose swords as their weapon group to upgrade to master proficiency, and everything else has to stay at expert. Well, look at that archer dedication. Whenever you gain a class feature that grants you expert or greater proficiency in certain weapons, which we just did to give master proficiency in swords, you also gain that proficiency rank in all simple and martial weapons in the bow weapon group. Just like that, our fighter at level 5 is now a master with all swords and all bows. And you can even replicate this with the Mauler dedication because it has the exact same text except for all two-handed weapons. What this means is that by level 6 or 8, as long as you have picked up both of these dedications, you will be a master in all bows, all phone ringtones, all two-handed weapons or weapons with the two-hand trait, and a master with one free chosen weapon group from your actual class feature. By doing this, you are a master in a solid chunk of every type of weapon in this game. And here lies the crux of what happened in the Pathfinder 2e Remaster. You see, like I said, a lot of archetypes got microscopic changes that unless you were really invested in them, like making an entire character build that relied on the text they changed, you're not gonna notice. So let's look at the Archer dedication in the Remastered Player Core 2. You have familiarity with all weapons in the bow and crossbow weapon groups. For the purposes of proficiency, treat any of these that are martial weapons as simple weapons, and any that are advanced weapons as martial weapons. No longer does it match proficiency boosts. They have completely removed that terminology from the dedication. This means that the fighter, once again, probably as it was originally designed, is stuck to one legend or master, depending on your level, weapon group, and you cannot cheese multiple weapon groups with the archetypes, which I get it, but I also felt so smart when I figured that out last year. Now, there is a silver lining to all of this. Because it now treats all advanced weapons as martial weapons, hey, you can take one dedication and get access to an advanced weapon that uses your insane martial proficiency. So if you were ever just dying to use the broad spear from Impossible Lands that is a two-handed reach spear with sweep and versatile slashing damage, hey, that's a cool weapon, but it's not worth taking -2 to attack rolls because your advanced weapon proficiency is lower. But you spend 1 feat on the Mauler dedication, and because that broad spear is a two-handed weapon, it now uses your martial weapon proficiency, meaning you get all the benefits of the broad spear with none of the negatives of it being an advanced weapon. So there is still a reason to take these archetypes on a fighter, but it's a reason to use specific advanced weapons now, not to become perfect with all weapons in that weapon group. Is this a better design? Maybe? I didn't think it was that overpowered, because if you wanted to become maximum proficiency in multiple weapon types, you would need to drop at least 1 feat on the Mauler dedication just to get it with all two-handed weapons, and if you wanted it with a ranged option, you would have to drop another feat on the Archer. I think they were worthwhile feats that rewarded the fighter and replicated the idea of your fighter studying weapons themselves, especially because these archetypes don't give new actions directly. It's a really nice representation of your fighter spending all of their time and experience expanding their weapon knowledge rather than getting better and learning new maneuvers for individual weapons. I hope that makes sense. I don't think it's a bad design at all. I'm not even mad at Paizo for it, even though they ruined my Zagreus. I'm not mad, I'm not mad. I won't be mad as long as you go watch that video, or if you watched the video before watching this one. So there you go, just an interesting little example about how even a microscopic change to an archetype can have ripple effects through builds and ideas across the system. That's why little changes like this, they're hard to do. You know, there's a reason the remaster took as long as it did. It's because Paizo needs to cross-reference as many of these interactions as possible to avoid making something absolutely broken. But that's it for me. Again, if you just finished watching this video right as it went live, I am live on Twitch right now playing Monster Hunter. I'll be live for about 4 hours, so I'd love to see you there. Otherwise, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And until next time, no nat ones.